Good morning. Happy Growth and Grace Day. This week we are diving full in because I've been having a lot of conversations around this and I want to share it with you because it's been super impactful in my life. So here we are. We're going to talk about owning yourself, your talents, your skill sets, and how to really allow yourself to recognize how talented you are without it being an ego stroke and without it taking over or having you come across as prideful or full of yourself. So, first things first, you must decide what you're going to own about yourself this year. What is it that you know that you're so good at, that you know you're talented at, you know you have a skill set in, and yet anytime it's brought up or anytime you think about it, you're like, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's like I can do that. No, here's what I want this to look like. I want when someone talks to you about something that you excel at, and we all excel at something, if not multiple things. When someone brings that thing up, I want you to be able to own and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, I love that. That's something that I find that I really have a talent in. Like, I love that. Fill in the blank, whatever the heck it is. I could care less if it is something creative, if it's something like using all your brain power, if it's designing something, if it's coaching someone, if it's painting something. It doesn't matter what it is. You get to finally own that you are incredibly talented in that area. And you get to really own it. You get to start knowing it. And here's how this works. So it can look different for different people, of course, as everything can. But typically, once we start recognizing it and choosing and saying, like intentionally deciding, I'm going to start allowing myself, and you get to allow yourself to do it. I'm going to start allowing myself to recognize that I'm really good at XYZ, whatever XYZ is. And once you start acknowledging it and recognizing it and saying it out loud, if it comes up in conversation, like actually owning, oh, I'm really good at that. Then you're going to start recognizing you actually get more opportunities to be in that space, to do that thing, to show up in that way. And it's so much fun. And it also helps relieve any like uncertainty in a conversation. It helps remove any woe is me, I'm not good at anything, self-conversation that you might be having. Excuse me, wow, that didn't quite go as I thought it was going to go. And it helps boost your confidence because you're owning what you're already good at. You're not trying to pretend your way into being good at something. That's a whole different conversation, and that's also possible. You are genuinely owning, I have a God-given talent in this arena, whatever that is for you. Own it and start recognizing it. Start acknowledging yourself for it, and not in a, oh, I'm so good at this and y'all are not as good as me. I'm the best. Not in that kind of way. No, we're not bringing your ego into this. We're simply acknowledging like, you're really good at that. And then here's the kicker. And this was the part that was the most challenging for me as I was choosing to really claim this, because last year was a big year for me, specifically in this, like owning my skill sets and actually recognizing them. And the thing that was the hardest for me was when other people would recognize it. That's when I would find my initial response wanted to be, oh, you're so, oh, thank you. I mean, there's so many people who are good at that. I mean, sure. And to totally deflect it, completely deny that they had just given me a compliment, which first of all is just rude. And secondly, it's not true. Like, I actually am good at that thing they just said. And I can say, thank you so much. And let it be that. Simply say thank you. And you don't have to go on a big story or a big tangent or a big explanation. they've recognized something they appreciate in you, something they see in you, thank them and let it land. Like, let it actually hit you that you're good at that thing. So some of you might be wondering, like, okay, what does it look like though to actually own what you're good at? Because maybe you're at a spot and you're like, I don't really feel like I'm good at anything. Like, I don't feel like I excel at anything. And let me tell you, that was my story for a long time. I had this whole belief in my life that I was like, I'm like okay at a lot of things. You put me in a scenario and I'll like finagle my way through it and I'll figure it out. And I'm like pretty good problem solver, and I'm talented in things that I can like, maybe my talent that I'm good at is being like okay at a lot of things, but not excelling at one. And that's literally like, I would tell myself that. I'm like, Susan, you're like pretty good at things and you can do a lot of things, but you're not like really good at one thing. And I would say that out loud, and I would tell people like, I feel like maybe I'm good at a lot of things, but I don't excel at one thing or at really anything. But and I really believed in my head that I wasn't putting myself down, that I was simply just stating a fact that I'm like, yeah, I'm good at that, but I'm not like really good at one thing. You know, jack of all trades, master of none. Have you heard that expression? I felt like that. I was like, I'm like a Jill of all trades, but master of none. And I was, quote unquote, okay with that, because it's not the worst thing to be able to feel semi-confident in kind of whatever scenario and feel like I can figure this out. Sure, I'll figure it out. And yet there was always something in me that felt like, okay, but I actually really do want to be really good at something. I actually really want to excel at something. I don't know what that thing is. I don't know if it's something artistic. Like I love doing, I used to make jewelry. I used to have a jewelry line as a business. Like, I don't know what it was. I just knew that I was sick of just being mediocre at lots of different things. And then as I started becoming aware of this, it was interesting to then see how it was reflected in the external world, like what we think becomes our reality. So then I started hearing a lot about don't settle for mediocrity. Like that was a very common theme, and mediocre was a word that I was hearing a lot. And it was around the context of don't settle for that. You're not designed to be mediocre. You're also not likely going to excel at every single thing that you ever put your hand to, despite what it looks like when you see some people in your life and you're like, how are they so good at every single thing that I've ever seen them do? They just excel at. And we all know people like that, which shows us that it's possible to be excellent at whatever you do, even if it's not your natural skill set. Even if it's not something that you've ever done before, you can still be excellent in how you show up to do the thing. So I've never really been officially trained in, let's say, guitar, because I really haven't. But I can still show up. If I wanted to take lessons, I could still show up and be prepared and be ready to go. I'd have to trim my nails, not very appealing, but I could choose to show up and be in excellence even if I don't excel at that thing yet. Is that making sense? So there's like a process to it. But the point of this specific Facebook Live is to help you unlock that thing within you that you actually already excel at, and you haven't let yourself recognize it yet. Or you've denied it when other people recognized it. You deflected it. Maybe you didn't say, oh, you're such a liar. That's not true at all. I suck at that. Maybe that wasn't your response, but your response was not actually receiving the compliment and receiving the truth that someone just shared with you about how talented you are in that arena. Maybe you are an excellent singer. Maybe you have that as a natural gift, and your voice just can flow with whatever song is singing, and you can match and sing along with or harmonize whatever song is playing. Like maybe that's where you excel and you haven't explored it yet. So I also want to highlight the fact that what you excel at does not need to be, excuse me, It doesn't need to be what you get paid for. It doesn't need to be a job or a career. What you excel at can be listening to people and hearing where they're at and being compassionate with people. Some people are excellent at being compassionate and not, oh, poor you, pity party, let's have a pity party, invite everyone. That's not helpful. But maybe your compassion allows them to express where they're at and also helps move them out of that space. That's something to be very excellent at. Like, that's an incredible skill and an incredible gift that you can give people. So maybe that's something, maybe that resonates with you when you're listening. You're like, oh my gosh, I actually really do like that. I'm really good at that. Maybe you excel at hosting people at your home. You are an excellent hostess. You always just, you make it look easy. You love it. People show up and you can see the stress melting off of them. You can feel the calm starting to just show up in their space. They love being in your home. So maybe that's you. Maybe you excel at swimming. Maybe you're an excellent swimmer and you could be tossed out into the middle of the ocean and you'd be like, I'm good. I got this. And you just swim your way back to shore. Maybe you excel at engineering and your mind can just go and dive into all the nitty-grittiest details and create the finest feat of engineering anyone's ever seen. Maybe that's you. Maybe you excel at tiny little minute movements and you can put together the tiniest little airplane kit, little airplane craft kit things, or you can like my sister, she's really good at a lot of things. She's one of those that you're like, how you also excel at that? Awesome. But I remember very vividly one time I had a paper due in high school, and you remember when you had to print out your paper and turn in a printed copy of your paper. Wow. But when you printed it out and you had to like write your edits and turn in a first draft with your edits or something in the margin. And I remember one time I asked for her help to get some edits. She had the most perfect, tiny handwriting. It was so itty bitty. And to this day, it's like locked in my brain how good she is at writing the tiniest little perfect handwriting I'd ever seen in my life. And so that is one of the things that she excels at. And it could be something like that maybe it's not some life-changing thing right now. And yet, it's still something you excel at. So let yourself own it. And I'll share with you transparently what I decided to start owning, like actually owning this last year. I own that I am an excellent coach. I am very, very good at helping people get their big dreams and big visions broken down into very tangible daily action steps that they can then move forward with. And so they actually then hit their goal. I'm very good at that. So that's something that I've decided to own. And since I've been owning that, there have been so many opportunities for me to support people in that way. Because I now know that I excel at that. I feel confident in that space. My confidence has grown in that space. I've been a good coach for a long time, but since I started owning it, now I'm an excellent coach and I know my skill set and I know where I'm good at. And it's so much like my coaching sessions now are so much more clear because I can go there and I know what I'm doing and I feel confident. Even if it means interrupting the person and say, all right, I totally hear you. I'm not going to have you focus on that right now. Like I used to not be able to do that because I was like, oh, I don't want to hurt feelings and, oh, let them talk, because my compassionate side wanted to come out and don't be rude. And the reason they're working with me and paying is because I'm a coach and I'm here to help them. And so now I can be laser focused and help them be laser focused. Oh, but it's because I started owning that. So my question to you is, what are you going to start owning in your life? What skill set, what talent, what gift do you excel at that you can start owning and finally really believing this year? Because it starts with a simple decision to say, you know what? Okay, I'm going to do it. Anytime that topic comes up, I'm going to recognize I'm actually really good at that. Anytime I receive a compliment on it, I'm going to actually receive the compliment. I'm not going to dismiss it. I'm not going to deflect it. I'm not going to deny it. I'm simply going to receive. I'm going to say thank you as part one. And I'm also going to actually register that someone just gave me a compliment in that. Like, I'm going to recognize someone acknowledged me for that. And I'm going to tuck it away. And if you're a journaler, journal about it. If you want to remember it somehow, like, I don't know how you want to track it, but if you want to remember it somehow, remind yourself of it. Write it down somewhere where you can look back at it and say, that was the day that so-and-so complimented me, or so-and-so said this, and it meant a lot. Remember it, receive it, remember it. And I just challenge you to go through your day and think through, like, what is it that I could really own? Because you already have it. You already excel at it. And this is your year to recognize it and fully own that gift. With that, my friends, I'm going to see you next week on Growth and Grace every Thursday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll see you then. Bye for now.